Do I have to? I'm glad that I have a CPA standing next to me who says I love zero tax, because some of the I get suspicious about CPAs sometimes as to who they actually work for, because sometimes CPAs that I've met, it seems like they're going out of their way to make sure that their clients pay the most amount in tax as humanly possible. And you're like, what the heck are you doing? And they're like, well, this is the way we have to do it. It's like, no. All right. Do you have to file a tax return in each state where I own rental property?
I mean, my feelings on this is if you're making money in a state, you have to report that income somewhere.
Yeah.
California in particular, I'm going to point that one out. We try to set up the LLCs and so forth that they're not actually operating in California.
Well, let's just talk about state income taxes.
State income tax in general. Say I have a rental back in Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana. I'm going to have to pay taxes on those rentals. I'm doing business in those states. That I have property in those states. I'm going to have to report something somewhere.
You have to do a separate tax return in each state?
Yeah, usually. If it's a partnership, when we talk about the pass-through entities, each state is different about whether you report or not.
Mm-hmm. I could say I have real estate in 10 different states. I do not file a state tax return in each state. I only file tax returns in the states that require that I file tax returns based off of like a franchise tax or things like that. Otherwise, you're going to pay tax where you receive the income as long as it's passive. You may have to, so there's always two things. This is fun to have an accountant because lawyers always say, oh, you have to file in this state and da, 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 da. And I said, there's two rules. There's the tax rule, which you don't have to register there to be subject to the tax. Ask the My Pillow guy whether he has a nexus to New York, because I know for a fact somebody got paid a lot of money for turning him in for not paying the sales tax. Right. You can have a tax nexus with the state, but not be doing business in that state for purposes of having to register. Now, when you have real estate, it's real easy. Your business is there, your entity is there. But if it is a flow-through entity and it's passive income, it's usually heading out of state. You may have a certain situation, for example, again, California, if you're just there, you're registered there, or even if a California resident individually owns something in another state, they consider that LLC doing business there for tax purposes, not for filing with the Secretary of State, but for paying taxes. It is weird. You have different things. So the answer would be it depends, unfortunately, on this one. Do I have to file returns in each state where I own rental property? It depends, and I would say as a general reason, unless Jeff wants to argue with me, the answer is no on rental properties, unless there's a law that requires that. But you're not paying income taxes in that state. You're going to pay income taxes in the state where you reside.
I think I'd go the other way. So if I have a rental property in Maryland, Maryland's going to want their share of tax from that.
They have a franchise tax, but you can even be, I know Maryland because we have a bunch of properties there. You can even be exempt from that. So,
well, then you have the weird ones like Tennessee where
then you
your
have
entity may have to pay a franchise tax, but you don't personally.
Right. So Tennessee is a great example. They have something called FONS, which is a family-owned non-corporate entity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes this stuff gets stuck in your head and you're like, get it out. But FONS just means, hey, if it's you owning it, then you don't have to pay tax there. Because they actually have two taxes. They have an excise tax and an income tax.
Yes, I do.
And you don't have to pay the income tax, but you have to pay the excise tax unless you meet the exception. So every state's a little bit weird. Let's see. So someone's asking, I own property in Indiana and live in California. Do I have to file a state income tax return? In California, you definitely do. I don't believe you do in Indiana. But again, that's what you have real estate professionals. Jeff may want you to file income taxes. Again, I can't see how you would on rental property.
Sometimes I like doing it just to capture the losses. So if you ever sell the property, you have deductions against any potential
I can see
gains.
That. Chances are, if you have rental real estate, you're not having income tax because you're going to be offsetting it. And if you don't, then we need to chat, because if you're paying tax on it, then you're probably not taken all the deductions you're entitled to. Now everybody's asking, what about Colorado? What about all these others? I can just say that like a baseball player who's actively coming in and actively making money, that's different. They're going to be filing tax returns in every state because it's so much money that they're making, and they make them do that based off of how many games they play. But if you're just doing passive activities, it's going to flow back to where you live for the most part. You pay your income taxes in the state where you reside for the most part. And then there might be franchise taxes and other things that you have to worry about in a state. Colorado, I'm not aware of. I don't own any property in Colorado.
And you got to remember, you're never going to pay taxes in both your home state and the rental state, or wherever you're generating the other income.
Unless it's a franchise tax and you happen to be in California, in which case then all bets are off.
But you usually get a credit from in your home state, or
you get a credit in California because they're going to say $800 minimum.
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah, they're evil. In case you were wondering, the franchise tax board's a bunch of vampires who are just sucking money out of everybody.
They're not evil, they're just broke.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say the franchise. Okay, the Board of Equalization in California is not evil. They're great people, but they're very aggressive in their collections. They're trying to be nice about it.